Breaking news, we continue to follow. Presidential immunity denied. That is the decision from an appeals court for former President Donald Trump, now seen as a major win for that D.C. election case brought on by special counsel Jack Smith.
Gerard Filitti, senior counsel at the Lawfare Project, is back with us. And Gerard, we're learning more about sort of the time frame in which maybe the former president might appeal this decision.
Okay, what the court said is that President Trump has until February 12th to decide whether to file a writ of certiorari with the Supreme Court, and if so, to ask the U.S. Supreme Court to stay this order pending hearing of his appeal. So this is not an immediate effect. There is a process for appeal. He has until next week to decide to appeal it, and this decision is not to be implemented until after that. So this is a win for Jack Smith, but this is not something that's going to lead to an immediate beginning of the trial.
You also take into account here, we have a major presidential election going on, probably bigger than anyone we've ever seen in many lifetimes here in 2024, and you have these court cases and proceedings while voters are making decisions. And you think about that now, this could delay these legal proceedings, specifically there in D.C. Do you foresee that happening, or the delay process with the Supreme Court potentially weighing in on this?
Well, I think that these cases will be delayed, but not indefinitely. The Supreme Court has an interest in coming up with a ruling sooner rather than later, both in the Colorado case and in this case. And we could see trial as early as September or October, which really is right smack dab in the election period. So that'll be very interesting to see how that plays out with voters.
Yeah, but talk to us more about the presidential immunity claim here. As Sean was pointing out, you know, leading up to January 6th, Donald Trump was president. What's going on behind the scenes to determine, you know, was he acting as president or was he acting in a personal capacity?
Well, in part, it stems from the question of whether a president has absolute immunity. And in general, the Supreme Court has said no, that there are cases in which this president has to answer criminal and even civil complaints or subpoenas while he is in office. So having determined that immunity is not absolute, then you have to look at under what circumstances is there immunity and is there not. And that does depend on what's being alleged and the nature of the conduct and the criminal act. So it really is a case-by-case determination. And the court here is saying that based on what's alleged to have happened on January 6th, he is not immune.
So the opinion was released in a court document. And just a pull quote says this, quote, and again, this is the court opinion: for the purposes of the criminal case, former President Trump has become Citizen Trump, with all of the defenses of any other criminal defendant. You would know about the legal process and opinions. They do change. This opinion, would that be shared across the board, or is that just one D.C. Circuit Court of Appeal judge that we're hearing from, but that could be different from a Supreme Court justice, let's say?
Well, this is definitely something that applies within the D.C. Circuit, which is Washington, D.C. It's not Nevada, it's not New York, it's not the Virgin Islands. The U.S. Supreme Court decides what is uniform across the country. So this has limited applicability in D.C., which is really where the White House is and where this is important. But the U.S. Supreme Court is who gets to weigh in and have the final word on what immunity means.